Welcome to this video on an overview of IELTS academic reading. My name is Misty Wilson and I'm the ESL Program Development and Research Manager with IELTSUSA. This video will cover the IELTS academic reading, which is different from the general training reading. So if you're preparing for general training, check out the video on the general training reading section. The reading section of IELTS is 60 minutes long, and there are 3 sections. Each section contains one passage, and the topics are general interest, which means you don't need to have any background information on that particular topic. All 3 passages are between 2,150 words and 2,750 words. They come from authentic texts like newspaper, magazine, journals, and books. In the reading section, there's a total of 40 questions, and a variety of skills are assessed. So the reading section of IELTS is assessing your ability to read for gist, read for main idea or details, and reading to understand inferences and implied meaning, to recognize the writer's attitude or opinion, and to your ability to follow the development of an argument as you read. Here's an example of what one of the passages might look like. There's a title, and you'll notice that it's divided into sections using letters A, B, C, D, and E here on this example. Now for each passage, you'll have 2 or 3 question types, and maybe a total of 12 questions for each passage. Some of the reading question types that you might find is fill in the gaps, whether it's text or table, matching features and headings, complete sentences, short answers to open questions, multiple choice, true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, summary completion, categorizing or classifying, and labeling. Let's take a look at some of those examples. So here we have matching headings, which is one of the most common question types on the reading, and it's usually the first question for the reading passage. And here what you're being asked to do is to take a look at the list of headings, and you'll see that there are 8 headings, and they're always with Roman numeral numbers here, and asked to match the headings to the different sections of the text. Now, there's always more headings than there are sections, so some headings will not be used at all. To do this, you want to look at each of these headings and underline the keywords, dramatic effects, small changes, for example, and then you're going to be looking at the topic sentences of the paragraph. You don't need to start reading every single word of the passage. You're trying to quickly gain some information about what the main idea is, so start with the first 3 sentences of each section to do that. So here you'll see that this first heading can be matched up with section B. In the first sentence, we have this term chaos theory. And if you know what chaos theory is, and that's enough for you to determine that that's the heading. But if you don't, that's fine, as long as you keep reading down to actually the 3rd sentence. You'll see this sentence here. Consequently, tiny variations in one part of a complex system can grow in huge but unpredictable ways. This matches this heading. But notice that we're not going to find word for word the heading in the passage. Instead, you need to call on your ability to match the synonyms. So instead of dramatic effects like we see in the heading, here we have huge and unpredictable ways. Instead of small changes, we have tiny variations. And so you would match the different headings to the different sections of the passage. Some other examples of question types that are common. Here we have sentence completion. Now the questions are in the same order as the information in the passage. So anytime you get sentence completion, you know that number 1 is going to be earlier in the passage than number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. This task type is asking you to find one word only. So the instructions on here asks for one word from the passage in the blanks here. And so that's important that you pay attention to the instructions. It could have said 2 words, or it could have said no more than 2 words, for example. So what you're being asked to do here is find a word from the passage that fills in the blanks. Another example of a question type is multiple choice. And you might be required to choose the best answer from 4 alternatives, or maybe the best 2 answers from 5 alternatives, or the best 3 answers from 7 alternatives. This question may involve completing a sentence where you're given the first part of a sentence and then choose the best way to complete it from the options, or it might involve completing questions with choosing the option that best answers those questions. Again, just as in sentence completion, the answers will be in the order as they're located in the text. So that's really helpful to know. Another type that we have here is true, false, not given. So here you're looking for information, factual information that's found in the passage. So if you know about the topic, it's important that you kind of forget what you know. You're specifically looking for information that's found in that passage. If it's true, then it means that that statement agrees with the information. Whatever that statement is, that it agrees with the information found in the passage. If it's false, it means that the statement contradicts or goes against the information. And if it's not given, it means that there's no information on this. So based on the passage, you can't answer that. The answers will not necessarily occur in the same order of the text. However, they'll usually come from one section rather than the entire text. And here we have form completion. And again, the answers will not occur in the same order, but usually they come from one section. So you'll be able to find all the answers from one section. Notice that the instructions here say no more than 2 words from the passage for each answer. So that means that it might be 1 or it could be 2. And so you want to look at number 1, number 2, and number 3 and fill in those blanks from words with from the passage. So reading skills are assessed by 1 mark being awarded for each correct answer in the 40-item test. Poor spelling and grammar are penalized. So that means that if you spell a word incorrectly in those sentence completion or form completion tasks, then you will not get that point. In addition, grammar can also be penalized. Poor grammar can be penalized. So if you are doing a sentence completion, you want to make sure that you're using a word or 2 words that fit the grammatical structure of the sentence. Scores are reported as a whole band or a half band. And here I have a table that shows you how many points basically you need to get on the reading to get your desired band score. So this is an average, and if your goal is a 6.0 on reading, that means that you only need to get a little bit more than half correct. I think this is important to remind yourself when you're taking the reading test, because it can be stressful when you don't know the answer to a particular question. We have to have an ability to identify that 8.5 student from a 9.0. So there definitely will be questions that you cannot answer, and that's okay. So keeping that in mind, that you don't have to answer every one correct is important. You also do not get counted off for mistakes, so it's better to guess than to leave something blank. So some advice for the reading test. Survey the text to get the main idea. Take a look at it quickly, looking at those topic sentences, have an awareness of what each paragraph is about. Analyze the question, underline those keywords, find the answers, and consider synonyms, and put your possible answers directly on the answer sheet. So if you remember in the listening video, I mentioned that you have 10 minutes at the end of the listening test to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet. You do not have that during this reading test. So you need to answer on the answer sheet as you go. You want to check to ensure all instructions are followed, especially the number of maximum words. And time management. Don't spend more than 20 minutes on a passage. You have 60 minutes to read 3 passages and answer the questions. The listening section, if you remember, those recordings increase in complexity. However, on the reading, they don't. So there's no set order in terms of complexity that the passages are in. So you want to organize your time and spend 20 minutes on each passage. As you prepare, read in English every day. Newspapers, magazines, books, online, read. What's important is that you also change the way that you read in different ways, not just reading to understand the complete meaning, but also practicing reading faster and scanning for specific information. So when you do the reading test, you're not going to be given a ton of time to soak in all of the information, right? A lot of these questions are asking you to scan, to quickly gain meaning from the text. And that's also what you're asked to do in real life when you read. You're not always just having as much time as you can to read. Often you need to read quickly, whether you're scanning through a menu at a restaurant or you're in an academic class. Finally, create a personal dictionary. You want to create a dictionary of words that you don't know, but what's important is that it's not any word that you come across that you want to add to your personal dictionary. Definitely get away from trying to look up every word that is not familiar to you. You want to train yourself to guess the meaning from context clues. You know, determine, is that a positive or a negative word based on what I'm seeing in the sentence around that word. But for those words that you feel are necessary in order to understand the meaning of the text, the meaning of that sentence, then you do need to look that word up. And you don't want to just look it up and forget about it, right? So you need to create your own personal dictionary where you write the word, the definition, and the sentence that you found that word in, so that you're not just learning the meaning of the word, but also learning how to use it. And I was at a conference a few years ago, and one of the speakers at a session that I attended learned English after in her 30s, and here she was now around 50 years old teaching English, and I have to tell you, her English was flawless, and I was really surprised at it, how she was able to learn English so late in life and learn it so well. And she credited this personal dictionary. And what she said that she would do is when she'd come across a word, she'd put it in. And then when she came across it again, she'd go back to her dictionary. And even if it was already there, she'd put it in again as another entry under that word. She'd put the sentence that she found it in. And what she found was it took usually 3 or 4 times of her finding the word, not knowing the word, putting it in her dictionary before she actually knew that word. So for those of you who are really serious about building your vocabulary, create your own personal dictionary to keep track of those words. Finally, check out our test taker IELTS prep page and email us at IELTS@IELTSUSA.org if you have any questions.